Hello, hello. Welcome back live from the STRAAT Museum in Amsterdam. It has been a while since the last time I spoke with an artist. We opened the museum again, but I thought let's give it another try and start with the STRAAT talks again. And with none other than my dear friend from the United States. As you can already see in the back, it's Colla. I've known Eddie for quite some time now. He's a paste-up artist. I see he's already joining us. Eddie, I'm still introducing you, so let me give a second. Thanks all for joining. Eddie is a paste-up artist. We've met each other a couple of times in Paris. I invited him to come and make a work for the museum. Niels, hi. Thanks for joining. Dutch Graffiti Library. Hi guys. One thing about Eddie doesn't want to show his face. So it's going to be an interesting interview. I have no idea how he's going to face himself right now. But Eddie, if you can ask for joining this, wait, I will do it for you. If you can join the interview. Let's wait for Eddie 1 second. Hi guys, thanks for joining. Yo, thanks for joining. If you have any questions for me, for Eddie in particular, don't hesitate to ask us, and I will be happy to answer all your questions and discuss them with Eddie. Eddie, is it working? Okay. I invited you, Eddie. You see like an invitation in the lower part of your screen. Okay. It's my name, David. Nice to meet you. It's still early in the United States, so maybe Eddie still needs to wake up a little. He's indeed here. I don't know what's going on. Let's give us a second. Eddie? Hey!
Hey, there we are.
Okay,
Sort of. Let me see this.
I do see you.
There we go. All right.
Hey, buddy. Hey, that's a long time.
What's up?
Okay, we do see you, and we do see you in the black. I do think that's the way you want to be, facing yourself.
What's that?
We
I'm kind
can't.
of backlit.
Yeah. Ah, okay.
So
Wait.
seems okay. I don't know. How's it seem to you? It's fine.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. I do see you in the back. Sorry, guys. Okay, we're back. So we're back in total, like with the STRAAT talks. I haven't done this in a while. The museum reopened a month ago after a lockdown of 7 months. And we did a couple of STRAAT talks before. I have chats with artists that are also part of the museum. And it's just catching up. I mean, for Eddie, in this way, it's possible to see his work since he's still not able to come to Amsterdam. I hope to invite you soon, Eddie.
And I hope to be back soon.
Yeah, yeah. So just a small introduction. Eddie is an artist from the United States. We've met each other a couple of times in Paris and in Amsterdam. I invited him to come and paint here and make the work that you see in the back during King's Day, a national event here in Holland. And it has been a while since we saw each other, Eddie.
Oh, it's got to be a couple of years now, right?
Yeah. How have you been?
Yeah.
How are you doing?
You know, I don't know. It's been a weird year and a half, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How have you been? I mean, I feel like I've been
Yeah.
stuck in the same
Yeah.
place for far too long.
Yeah,
But that's the way things are right now.
right.
I
So
haven't
how?
been back to Paris in almost 2 years, which
Mm,
is probably like a record for me.
yeah,
Um,
you travel a lot to. Cindy Hager is saying hi, Eddie. Not sure if you know
oh,
her.
hey, Cindy. Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
yeah. So I will, Raider. I will try to also look in the lower part and see the comments and the questions. So we're just catching up. I really am looking forward, of course, to meeting you again. Hopefully in Paris or in Amsterdam or in any other city.
Amsterdam
Um,
would be great.
Amsterdam would be great, right? Yeah, yeah. So how's the situation over there in the States?
I don't know. I mean, things are getting back to normal, I suppose. A lot of people have been vaccinated now. And
Mm-hmm.
basically anybody who wants a vaccine, it's easy to get one.
Yeah.
Um, it's free, it's everywhere, you can get one. So the only people who aren't vaccinated are the people who don't want to be vaccinated.
Okay. Fair enough. And so you
Really.
see the world is coming back to life there in LA or
Yeah, well, I'm in Oakland right now. Yeah.
Oakland? Yeah.
But
Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's coming back. I mean, we never had the kind of lockdowns that Europe had.
Mm-hmm.
They were more like guidelines, but people were still going out and people were still doing things. It wasn't like Paris where you could only go within, 2 kilometers of where you lived, and you could only go out for groceries and certain things. Um,
Mike
it
is
wasn't as,
Mike from Paris is saying hi.
oh, Mike, hey, Mike.
Yeah, sorry, continue.
So yeah, so I mean, things weren't as restrictive here as far as rules, but
Right.
still, I think most people were just kind of isolated for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
And it's just been weird. Although it's gotten better, I think there's this sort of hesitancy with some people to get back to normal. Like
Okay.
even though we know things are safer, we know the risks are much lower, we know a lot of people are vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to take a while for people to adjust and sort of get back to life as it was, or think about life as it was, or ditch some of the habits they had during the pandemic, although we're still having the pandemic,
Yeah.
but to a lesser degree. But
Okay.
the sort of incessant hand washing, the sort of all these sort
That's
of
still there.
neurotic things
Yeah.
we took up. Well, for me, I mean, I keep actively trying to be like separate myself from those habits, thinking like,
Okay.
this isn't really necessary anymore.
Yeah.
But habits are habits, and they
Right.
take a while to break. So,
Yeah. So you're completely vaccinated?
yep, yep.
Cool. Good.
Uh, got vaccinated quite a while ago, actually.
Of course,
Um,
you're quite old, right?
yeah, exactly. So I qualified right away because I was
Yeah.
in that high risk,
But is it the same in the
octogenarian
States?
set.
Because here in Holland, I had to wait like quite a long time because I'm still so young. But like older people were already a couple of months ago, they were vaccinated.
We had I got um, vac. There was like this pop-up vaccination place
Mm,
that was right in my neighborhood at a church. And they
okay.
just kind of set up and they didn't really have a lot of, it wasn't one of the main vaccination sites. It was just this little satellite site. And a friend of mine called me up and he said, hey man, they're doing vaccinations at this place and you can
Hmm.
just sign up online and go. And
Okay,
like,
that's
didn't
cool.
matter who you were or what age you were. So we just by stroke of luck, like got in there earlier probably than we should have, but they had all these open slots and me and my girlfriend just said, fuck it, we're going.
Yeah,
Um,
good one.
so we got vaccinated probably like the end of March.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Hey,
But
and
at the
yeah,
Go ahead.
sorry, tell
No,
me.
no, no, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, Bernd, I saw your question. I will ask it in a bit. Um, but how was it for you as an artist? Because I've spoken with quite some artists over the last 1.5 years. They all have their own experiences with the COVID, and if it gave them some opportunities or it was very difficult. How was it for you?
It was awful.
Yeah.
I mean,
You love to travel,
I
right?
mean, I, I couldn't travel, so that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought, okay, like let's try and stay positive about this.
Hmm.
There's all these things these projects that you sort of have written down that you never have time for because you're traveling or you're doing other projects. And I
Yeah.
was like, great, I have all the fucking time in the world now. I can do all these things.
Yeah.
Um, but like mentally, I think like the whole, like not to sound overly dramatic, but the weight
Mm.
of the thing was kind of preventing me from being particularly creative.
Yeah.
Also in the States, we were having this circus with Trump go on, and there was
Yeah.
all this just crazy instability, and you never knew what was going to happen from one day to the next. Every morning you get up and read the paper, and he'd be running his mouth about some ridiculous thing or,
Yeah.
making some ridiculous claim about the pandemic. And so it was just like a super anxious time.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult to focus and be be creative. I found
Okay.
the focus thing, I think, was the biggest problem.
Yeah.
You know,
So did you find your refocus, or is it still gone?
I'm still working on it. Another thing is I sort of, and as far as the pandemic itself went,
Hmm.
because of the nature of my work and like, a lot of my other work, and you're pretty familiar with a lot of it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I started doing this sort of body of work, these salvage portraits and things like that in
Yeah.
like 2012, and I
Okay.
continued doing them. Um, but really, the whole thing that set off that body of work is me and D. Young V and Hugh Lehman did this exhibit, this sort of post-apocalyptic exhibit
Right.
in Los Angeles in 2012. And when we were coming up with the concept for the show, I started doing a lot of reading, like, okay, what are actual apocalyptic scenarios?
Okay.
And everything I read, so this is, 8 years ago, but
Yeah.
everything I read said basically like, the old idea of the apocalypse, I mean, the idea in the 80s, was some sort of nuclear catastrophe or nuclear war, this or that. And really the conversation had changed, and they said really the most likely apocalyptic event would be a respiratory infection that's super contagious
Right.
and has a high mortality rate.
I know that story.
So, yeah, right. So in January, in like January of 2020,
Hmm.
I open up the paper and start reading about what's going on in Wuhan, and immediately my thought is, this is happening. This thing
Yeah.
that everybody was talking about is going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, and it did. Now it
Yeah.
didn't happen exactly in the same way that I imagined it, but it did happen. And so I was preoccupied with it from like day one. Like
Okay.
every day I would get up and I would read the news from Wuhan, like what's going on. And I remember reading it when it was like, there were 20 cases
Hmm.
and one guy had died.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
In
thought,
the early beginnings.
right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, like that's been a preoccupation of mine for a long time. And then when it started to happen, I thought, well, okay, here we go.
Yeah. But we're still here, Eddie.
We're still here.
Yeah.
So we're more resilient perhaps than we thought we were, or
Yeah.
at least I'm more
Yeah. Yeah.
resilient than I thought we were.
Of course,
So, and then as far as making work, I kind of feel like, okay, well, I'm not so sure. You get to this point, I think a lot of people went through this during the pandemic, where you
hmm.
start to say, well, what do I really want? When you're faced with these dramatic circumstances, you
Yeah.
start to re-question your life. Like, am I doing what I really love? Am I doing what I really want? And I think for a lot of artists that I spoke with, it was like, am I really doing the work that I want to do?
Okay.
Or am I postponing other things that I want to do because I don't think there's an audience for it, or I don't think my audience wants to see that?
Okay.
So I think there's a lot of that, and I think that's still going on. So I'm sort of ping-ponging back and forth. I'm still working in the studio. I started working in the studio a lot more recently. I've been able to focus more recently. But I'm ping-ponging back and forth at this point between work that you would recognize as mine and things that are
Mm.
way more conceptual, and if you saw them, you wouldn't think that's my work at all.
Okay, interesting. Oh, it can be an interesting switch, right? When you
Yeah,
decide
absolutely.
you're going to do it.
Yeah, and even if I don't end up doing that work, I think, anytime you investigate something,
Hmm.
whether it's sort of in your style or genre or whatever,
Hmm.
even if the work itself isn't successful, you pick up things from those processes and then you bring them back with you to your work.
Of course. Yeah. Well, it can be some sort of reset after the whole COVID situation.
Right,
If I
exactly.
right? Yeah. So if
I mean,
we,
I think that's probably the bright side, right? That
I
everybody had
think
this
so.
big period of time
Yeah.
to kind of reflect and think, okay, we'll get through this, or hopefully we'll get through this, and
Yeah.
then what? Do I want to continue doing what I've been doing, or do I want to move on to something else?
Okay. Interesting. I didn't know you were in this state of mind, considering different things. Um. Anyway, I hope for you come to a decision regarding what you want to do, regarding which way you want to go.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
I will eventually by default.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll have
Well,
to.
yeah, yeah, of course. No, you have to. You have to come back to Paris anyway.
It's
Whatever
true.
you're going to do. Um, but of course, if we go back to the beginning of our friendship, it kind of started with Instagram, right? I mean,
It did.
I was this guy promoting you all the time,
Right,
together.
back in
Uh,
2015, 16.
yeah, 15, I think. Yeah, 15, 16.
Yeah.
16. 16, we met each other in Paris, of course. Um,
Yeah. I
but
was just telling somebody that story.
yeah, we never met, and we met each other for the first time in Paris, going out
I thought you
by
were
night.
from Paris.
Oh, you thought? Oh, I didn't.
Well, originally I thought you were from Paris
Oh,
because you had
yeah,
posted all these photographs from Paris.
yeah.
So I remember I had contacted you before I was going to Paris in 2016, like, hey, it'd be good if we met up.
Hmm.
And I think you said something like, oh, are you going to be in Paris? And I was like, yeah. And then I didn't realize you were from Amsterdam, and you said, oh, cool. Can I come and stay with you? And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, sure. And then one day, me and Night Owl, we had been out till like 5 a.m. We were out putting stuff up.
Hmm.
And it was like 9 o'clock in the morning or something. And you rang the doorbell at the apartment.
It was me.
And yeah, it was you. And Night Owl was just like, who the fuck is that? And I was like, oh, I think it's this Dutch guy. And he's like, what's he doing here? It's like, not, and I was like, oh, he's going to stay here for a while. And I was
Yeah.
like, who the fuck is he? And I was like, I don't really know, but, I
Yeah.
just told him he could stay here.
Yeah.
And he was like, is that really a good idea? And I was like, I don't know. We'll find out.
So,
It turned out to be a good idea.
okay. Thank God. Yeah, perfect. So, for the people that are watching us right now, and are watching us later, you might even find some people that don't know Eddie Colla. So let's talk a little bit more about your history. I don't know if it's still in your bio what you did before you were an artist. Maybe
I
you
was
can
always an
share.
artist, kind of. I was a different kind of artist. I was a photographer for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I studied photography. Um, and then I got out of school and I was working as a photographer kind of part time. I was kind of trying to get that going, but I was doing lots of, jobs
Mm-hmm.
just to get by. But I worked for the New York Times for a period of time in New York
Yeah.
as a photojournalist. And that was a really good experience and kind of a fluke. I wasn't a journalistic type of photographer. I was more
Okay.
of a studio fine art photographer. I did a lot of installations.
Okay.
But I had a former teacher who was a picture editor at the New York Times, and he called me up and he said, "You want to work for the Times?" And I was like, "Yeah, maybe. I don't know." And I said, I don't, I don't really have a lot of experience with journalism." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know. I think you could do it. Why don't we try it?" I mean,
Okay.
which is just lucky. I mean, it's not easy to go and work for the New York Times. And I
No.
just sort of got this offer, like, "Do you want to try this?" So I tried it.
Yeah.
Um, and that was in a bunch of ways a, a great thing. If you
How
go to
long did
art
you work
school,
there?
I worked there on and off for probably 3 years.
Okay.
I was like a freelancer, so I would get assignments. I didn't work there full time, but but it was a great experience. I mean,
Okay.
it was to see the way the New York Times works.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing was, I had gotten out of school. I had this, I was going to be an artist.
hmm
Everybody in my family was kind of like, "What the fuck is he going to do with himself? Like, how's he going to make any money?" Da da da.
hmm
Your family is kind of like, "Yeah, maybe this was not a great life decision." So as soon as I started having pictures in like the New York Times, and everybody kind of let up. They were like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah. He made it.
now we get it." Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it legitimized my wanting to be an artist. They were like, "Okay," like
Yeah.
they couldn't necessarily. If I had some gallery show at some little, you know,
hmm
bullshit hole in the wall gallery, and it was a bunch of stuff that my family didn't really understand what the hell I was doing. The New
Yeah.
York Times, they could understand. They could open the New York Times and look and see my name and be like, "Oh, okay, we get it."
Yeah. 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 So, and how did you made the transformation to becoming an artist? Well, like in
Well,
the streets.
I mean, I was, I had done all this stuff when I was younger,
hmm
um, like these sort of public art projects.
Okay.
So for a while, I was doing these bus benches, like bus stops, the benches.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Oakland at the time, they had these advertisements on the back. They were like these
Okay.
2 foot
Yeah.
by 6 foot little mini billboards was the back of the bus bench.
Yeah.
So I thought, "Oh yeah, man, I want to do something like that. I want to do art where, because I thought, well, bus stop's a great place to show art because people just have to, there's nothing to do and
hmm
everybody's just standing around waiting for the bus. So you have this sort of captive audience.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing else to look at. If you put something cool on the bus bench, they'll probably stare at it for a little while.
So
That
it
was my
started like this.
philosophy. Yeah,
Okay.
it
Cool.
started like that. And um, there was a woman who ran the ad agency for the bus bench company. And
Okay.
basically, like, I just approached her. I called her on the phone and I said, like, "I'm an artist. I want to do this thing with your bus benches."
hmm
And she was just super nice. She was like, "Oh, yeah, come down to the office and we'll talk about it."
Okay.
So I came down to the office, had a little sketchbook with ideas of things that I wanted to do on the bus bench. And she just let me do it.
Okay. Cool.
And then
Uh,
after that, I think I was sort of like, the things were kind of high visibility. Lots of people saw them.
hmm
And and it was then I was kind of like, well, I think this is what I want to do. I don't really want to show in a gallery. That's inconvenient for people. I'd rather just put my art somewhere in the public where people can just see it on their way to work, blah, blah, blah.
Good mindset. Yeah. Perfect. Hey, and from doing the bus benches to becoming this paste up artist, how did that happen?
That's a funny thing, like so I stopped doing all that stuff entirely.
Yeah.
I mean, I was still doing photography exhibits, like fine art stuff, but mostly what I was doing was working for magazines. And I was doing a lot of like hip hop album covers for
Okay.
like Bay Area artists. I was working with a lot of music magazines. I was
hmm
doing some fashion stuff. And I was probably going at it pretty hard for about 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And the thing about being a professional photographer is basically you end up your job is to make everything look a little bit better than it actually is.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
you're a bit like a professional liar, you know.
Yeah,
You make people look better than they are. You make people look cooler than they are. You make
of
people look
course.
more interesting than they are because you have to somehow visualize.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a visual medium,
yeah. Makes
and
sense.
I think it started to bother me that like I was like, oh man, I spent so much time making things in
Mm-hmm.
a way fake,
Yeah,
and I thought, yeah, this is starting to wear on me. And it's not like a moral judgment. Like I don't have anything against photographers. I mean, that's the job.
yeah.
Um, but I sort of started to just say, like, I don't know if I really want to keep doing this. Like,
It
maybe I
did.
want to do something else.
It didn't feel real to you anymore.
Yeah, I just didn't understand what it was contributing to anything,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Um,
Sorry, continue. How did you
what it,
be, yeah, how did you choose to go into this way, and because this is a pay stop obviously, and that's the work that you do,
yeah,
or most of the time. How
yeah.
did
And so a
you
lot of
go
the
that
work
way?
I do is still photography based.
Yeah.
So, I mean, after I took a break from photography, I had a little bit of money saved up, and I thought, you know what, I'm just not going to take any jobs for maybe 6 months or
Mm-hmm.
something. And
Yeah.
and I'm going to do, I'm going to do some of these other things. So I started learning how to screen print,
Okay, cool.
like serigraph.
Yeah, yeah.
I started doing that. Um, and then I started thinking about like, you know, the bus benches. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't want to show in a gallery. I don't really want to do this commercial photography work. Um, I just want to, I just want to put up my work where people are,
Yeah.
and let them see it and whatnot. Now, the problem with that was I wasn't making any fucking money. So,
Yeah.
so eventually I had to do something to make some money. So
Mm-hmm.
when I started screen printing, I started making T-shirts.
Right.
I started screen printing T-shirts, and I would kind of go around and I would sell those, and that's ended up being how I made money. So I made T-shirts. T-shirts funded the street art.
Okay.
So I would sell the T-shirts at cheap. That would give me money to whatever, pay rent
Yeah.
and do street art. And then that went on for like 7 years. I had a couple of apparel companies.
Yeah.
I had a store and a gallery
Okay.
for a period of time.
Where was this? Was this also in Oakland?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So I was doing that for. I was still doing my artwork but then I was doing street art, but that's what I was doing for money because
Okay.
I wasn't making any money doing street
Yeah.
art, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think most of the artists have been at that moment, not making any money, what to do, where to go. Um,
Yeah,
so, and at some point, you combined your photography skills and your way of expressing yourself in the streets in becoming a paste-up artist,
yeah, yeah. And I mean,
right?
it was just, I mean, two things happened. I've been working, when I was working as a photographer, I mean, basically you're usually working for an art director, a photo editor, or
Hmm.
somebody.
Yeah.
And so, they, for the most part, have some idea of what they want you to do. And then when I started doing the t-shirts, I thought, oh, well, this is the greatest job in the world because it's just, it's just really me. Like
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want. And if it succeeds or fails, that's on me, but I don't really have to, the decision-making process isn't shared with anybody.
You feel
So I
free.
thought, well, that's cool. Right.
Yeah.
And then the street art just took it a step further. It was like, well, I don't really need anybody's consent to do anything anymore. I mean, I can put this thing up when
Yeah.
I want, if I want. And so I also like the sort of spontaneity
Hmm.
of street art. Um, if you were going to do an exhibit at a gallery, you would know 6 months in advance and you would work for
Yeah.
several
Yeah.
months, make the works. There would be a scheduled opening.
Yeah.
And it's all a very kind of lengthy process. But like with street art, you could have an idea in the afternoon and by that night it could be up on the street. You know,
Yeah,
you could
yeah.
just execute it and go out. Um, and that was like, for me, that was the best thing in the world, because I was like, yeah, sometimes you work on something and the process is so long that it sort of loses steam along the way. It
Right.
loses its excitement or its urgency.
Yeah.
And it's like, to be able to work on something like when you first have that idea, that's when it's the most exciting, that initial idea. And if you can get the whole process in while you're still in that state of mind where you're super excited, that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've witnessed that state of mind in the streets of Paris, of course, where
Yeah. So,
we're looking for the right spot to put your work, and it had to fit with the surroundings.
right.
Of course, most of the preparations were in Oakland, and you brought a big tube or a couple of tubes with big posters or stencils or whatever, to
Right. And I
prepare.
think the last time
Yeah,
we were together in Paris, I think a lot of it was done in Oakland, and I brought it with me,
yeah,
um, because I didn't have anywhere to work in Paris. But the last few times I've been to Paris, now I've either, used friends' studios, or just had places to stay that had a little bit more room.
yeah.
So now I actually make a lot of it in Paris, which is nice, because before, like you said, I would just show up with a bunch of stuff,
Right.
and
Yeah,
then the spontaneity was a little bit lacking. But now that I'm there more often and I know more people and I have places to work, I can
yeah,
kind of just go over there and uh, make work there, sort of in the same spontaneous way.
yeah. So, are you still thinking of moving to Europe or to Paris, particularly?
You know what? I think I'm probably thinking I will. I mean, the pandemic fucked everything up. I was supposed.
It
I
did.
came back to California and I was supposed to be here for like 4 weeks to do some work, and then I
Yeah.
was going to be leaving. And I was
To
supposed to go.
Asia.
I was supposed to go. Yeah, I was supposed to go to Hong Kong for like 6 months.
Oh, wow. So
Um,
long.
yeah, I was going to
Okay.
go there and then figure it out from there. Um,
Okay.
and I was also supposed to go and do this big project in Cambodia. I had been in Cambodia the year before,
Yeah.
and I had started a project in Cambodia that I was going to
Yeah.
kind of make into a body of work and
Okay.
bring back to Cambodia.
Yeah, I think you
But
told me
all
about it, right?
that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I did a series of portraits while I was there, and of a specific neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and we're working with the people in that neighborhood, but it never happened. So I planned on being here for 4 weeks, and the 4 weeks that I was home, the whole pandemic thing started to happen,
Yeah.
and that was like a year and a half ago. So
Okay. Yeah, yeah, no. It it just passed like it was just a couple of days, right? It all went so fast. Um,
yeah, it's weird. It went fast, and time is sort of just bent.
yeah.
Sometimes it feels like, oh man, that was like the other day, and then at other times it feels like I've been here for years. Like,
Yeah. Well, I can
and I
imagine
just
if
don't
you
have much.
travel so much, I can imagine that staying at home feels like yeah, ages, you know.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, for the previous few years before the pandemic, I mean, I was never really home for more than a few weeks at a time.
right.
I was almost never in Oakland.
Yeah.
Um,
So based on that,
and
because yeah, sorry, based on that, there were also a couple of questions. One of the questions were where can we find your work? Well, of course, street art fades, so I'm not sure you can still find a lot of the works, but where
yeah, I don't
around
know.
the
I think
world?
everything from Paris is gone, man.
Yeah, no,
I haven't
it's
been
gone.
there in a while.
No,
Where can you find my work right now? I have no idea.
well,
On my website, probably.
well, I know you.
Every
Well, I know you made a lot of works in Bangkok, right? In Thailand before,
I went to Thailand. Yeah, I did a bunch of work there. I did a bunch of work in Phnom Penh in
Mexico,
Cambodia.
Cambodia,
Um,
Playa del Carmen, or
Playa del
wherever,
Carmen, right?
Nevada in the desert.
That actually, that was something that me and Night Owl used to do. We would go
Yeah,
on these road trips, to
Mhm.
these sort of ghost towns or abandoned towns.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we haven't done it for the last year and a half, but I was just talking to him the other day, and so we might head out to Nevada again
yeah.
and
Cool.
do another one of those road trips.
Yeah. So
Those
and
are great.
yeah, and obviously maybe you can find your work in. Well, you have done work in Oakland, maybe San Francisco. I don't know, but
You know
um,
what? I haven't put anything on the street in a year and a half.
yeah, no, it's so bad. No, no
It's
work.
been weird.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I just
yeah.
haven't gone out, and part of that was like I was saying that during the whole pandemic is just like I was just not making good work. It,
No,
it was just really sort of I don't know,
yeah.
like
Hey,
this creative paralysis.
yeah. Well, I mean, of course, we already spoke about it, and yeah, it sucks. Really hope you will find your way back, whatever decision
Oh, I
you.
mean, yeah, it'll be fine. It's
Yeah,
just that
yeah.
that's
It's
that's what happens. I mean, I think a
yeah.
lot of people went through the same thing.
I think so. Well, I was too busy here, but I
Yeah,
totally understand. I totally understand what you mean. I think it was quite a pause for everybody around the world to
right,
figure out what they're doing.
right.
Um, but going back to your work, well, I see one model here in the back. How, like, there's one question of Lux Celsius. How do you choose your models? Is there,
They're mostly they're mostly people I know,
yeah,
so they're a friend of a friend or an acquaintance or somebody I'm friends with. I
mm-hmm,
don't work with a lot of models. Um, I did one exhibit in Paris where I went to Paris like 2 months before the exhibit,
ah,
and I
you
had
did,
no works.
yeah, I remember,
And I did all the work there, and that was basically like the 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 process with the models in that was kind of interesting because I just asked my friends. I said, will you be in this project?
yeah.
So it
When did
started with all
why
my
didn't you ask me?
because you weren't in Paris.
Okay,
I think I did ask
yeah, baby,
you.
I'm just joking. Yeah, no, could have been.
So it became friends. It started out with like, 10 friends of mine, and I photographed them. And I said, hey, do you know anybody else who would want to do this? And
Mm-hmm.
then I think I ended up photographing about like 60 people
Wow,
in
wow, okay,
in about 10 days or 2 weeks. And the deal with all the models on that project was, look, I'm going to do all this. It's in Paris. It's going to be all people from Paris. And if I photographed you, you're going to be in the show.
yeah.
So at the end of the 2 months, I think we made 92 pieces for the
Oh,
exhibit,
wow.
and everybody that we photographed was in the show.
I see. Okay, cool.
So in that case, it was completely random. I didn't actually choose the models. I would say
Okay.
to a friend of mine, "Hey, do you know anybody who'd want to do this?" And they'd say, "Oh yeah, my friend so and so might want to do it." And I was just like, "Just have them call me." So a lot of times in that situation, the models showed up, and I had no idea what they looked like, how old they were, anything. They would
Yeah.
just show up, and I'd be like, "Okay." I thought that was fun for me because you're basically, if the model's already chosen for you,
Hmm.
um, you're basically in this situation where like, okay, so this is what I'm working with model wise, like this is what a person looks like.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what's the best way to photograph this person? When
the,
you do commercial photography, it's very easy. You get a bunch of good looking people
hmm.
and
Yeah.
the pictures sort of take care of themselves.
Yeah.
But it's a good exercise to just throw yourself into a situation where you don't control all the parameters and you make
Mm.
work based on who you're around.
Yeah, but it makes it much more personal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of people that I photographed for that show, have since become friends.
Yeah.
They're people that I visit when I go back to Paris. So it was really a good experience in that way too, just as a social thing.
Yeah. So indeed, I hope I pronounce it right. Gladys is saying Paris is missing your work. There's somebody asking why you're sitting in the back in the dark. Well, Eddie doesn't want to show his face to the public. So
I'm very shy.
yeah, no, you're not. You just don't want to show
I'm
your face, which
I'm
is
just,
fine.
well, it's because I'm so strikingly handsome. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
want
right.
that to
Yeah.
cloud people's vision of my work. I don't want them to like my work just
Yeah,
because I'm gorgeous.
yeah, yeah. No, I thought you were just giving me the attention right now, right?
Yeah, right.
Right, yeah, right, yeah, yeah. So Powwow Rotterdam is they're coming to Paris. I think when you're around, that's hopefully soon. I'm going to Paris in 3 days actually, Eddie. I'm very
Oh
sorry to
yeah?
make you jealous. Yeah, yeah, I'm going.
Of course I'm jealous. I mean,
Yeah,
I've been dying to go back. It'll happen soon. I mean, we're getting very close now to the point where I can leave.
yeah. Just let me know. I'm not living in Paris, but I'm definitely coming when you're around.
Yeah.
Um,
And you're just a train ride away, so.
2.5 hours from Rotterdam,
Yeah.
where yeah. So it's nothing. Um, so yeah, we miss your work. We miss Eddie around in Europe in Paris. Hey Eddie, last year I spoke about your work here in the back a lot
Hmm.
because funny or coincident wise, it's you made it in 2017, but like in one image, it sort of summarizes the whole situation of last year, 2020. Um,
Right.
well, if you can see it, like, well,
Yeah.
it's of course the flag of the United States, uh,
Right.
telling the story of Trump and Biden, especially Trump, of course, the
Yeah.
Dark Lady, talking about the Black Lives Matter and the face mask of the COVID. And you made it
Well,
in
it's a funny.
2017.
I made it beforehand, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people, I think there's an interesting thing about that piece that tells you a lot about the United States.
Hmm.
The piece uh, was about, I mean, it was about a lot of things, but really it was about sort of this turning point in the United States post 9/11,
Right.
and the whole tone of the country. Um, and it wasn't really, race was among those things, but it wasn't primarily about race.
Hmm.
But the thing that's been interesting for me as an artist is you realize that if you use an African American model and you
Yeah.
juxtapose them to the American flag, it's immediately about race,
Yeah. It
which
does.
um, just sort of I mean, it just sort of throws into sharp relief
Hmm.
um, the sort of depth uh, that this country has with race,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
problem it has with race, that you can't put those two images together without people immediately thinking that that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Um,
But in fact, it wasn't in initially.
Initially, no. I mean, it was to present what was going on in the country.
Right.
And like I said, obviously race is a part of that, but it wasn't a piece that was specifically about race. Um,
Isn't everything in our USA? You see the
well,
questions
that's
as well.
exactly my point.
Yeah.
There's no, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's exactly the problem
Yeah.
um, that we have here.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember when you made the piece here in Amsterdam, it was also, I'm not sure if it was initially the idea, but you told me like it's in some way a way of saying goodbye to the United States and moving to another place and start
Right.
something
Yeah.
better, right? I can
It was,
remember
and
you.
at
Yeah.
the time, yeah, I wrote a whole essay about how I was finished with the United States.
Yeah.
That's only gotten more. I had the only reason I'm here is because of the pandemic, and I got stuck here.
Hmm.
That's 100% it. Once everything's sort of back to normal or normaler, um, I'll leave again. And I don't suspect I'll come back to the States anytime
No,
soon.
perfect. Because some
I,
people are already asking you when you're coming to the Netherlands. Well,
yeah, I mean, I would just, I don't think I'm actually gonna. So earlier you were like, oh, where are you gonna live? I don't think I'm
yeah,
gonna live anywhere for a while.
yeah, come here.
Yeah, I mean, I can go to Paris. I can
Yeah.
stay there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I have a good friend of mine now who's living in Mexico.
Okay,
Um, I may go there for some period of time.
cool.
I still have the opportunity to go to Hong Kong for 6 months when
Nice.
things sort of iron out a little bit more. So honestly, I think once we sort of close this pandemic chapter for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, I'll probably just be bouncing around for a few years.
Yeah, I
I
would
kind
love
of
to
like the
join you.
idea of not living anywhere.
No. Yeah, well, that's also good. I would love to join you in Mexico or in Hong Kong.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, you
I mean,
never
it'd be
know.
great to have you. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
you
After
can
just randomly going to Paris to meet this Eddie Colla, I'm pretty sure I can make it to Mexico or Hong Kong with you.
yeah, I mean, it would be fantastic. I mean, I don't. Have you been to Hong Kong?
No, neither did I go
It's
to
great,
Mexico.
and you should go soon because it's changing fast, and
Hong
I'm
Kong.
afraid that yeah, it's just not going to be the same place it was in a couple of years.
Yeah,
Uh,
we've seen
just
all
just
about it.
because with China,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We've seen all about it as well. Uh, so somebody's asking you how lucky you are.
How lucky am I?
Yeah. You also see the
In
questions
my
or you?
opinion,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like so far away, I can't even
Oh,
see
okay,
them.
yeah. So
I
I'm
mean, in my opinion, how lucky am I? I mean,
mm,
I don't know. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I get to
that's
do what I like doing
yeah, well
um,
that's well said. Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as far as I mean, it's not like life's perfect and I don't have problems, but I mean,
Mm.
in a lot of ways, I've been about as lucky as a person can be,
Well, that's good to
in
hear,
my
man.
opinion.
Yeah, well,
You know,
that's all what matters in
I
the
mean,
end, right? It's your life.
yeah, I mean, I'm just grateful that I got to do all these things.
Yeah. Perfect, man. So since you're sitting all the way in the back, Dark Berry Juice is saying what up, Eddie? Long time
Hey, what's
listener as
up?
well. Yeah. A lot of
Cheers.
love from Paris and France, of course. Come to LA.
Yeah, I
Dark
haven't been
Berry
in
is
LA in
saying.
a long time.
Would be good to see you back in London. So you've been in London as well, I see.
Yeah, went to London a couple of times. I think shortly
Ah,
after.
of course. Of course.
Yeah,
Right after Paris, you went with D706, I think, or maybe he was also coming.
I went and I had a friend who was living in London, so I stayed with her for a while.
Right?
But I was going around with Kat. You know
Yeah.
Kat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, she was kind of showing me around London, and it was great.
Yeah, yeah.
I got the guided tour from Kat.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all of Shoreditch is also changing a lot. It's not sure when the
Yeah,
last time you were there. Uh,
it 2.5 years ago. You know, it's
oh,
a
that's a
while.
good question. Yeah, it's a good question now. Yeah. So what or who was your biggest inspiration? Yeah, there you
I
go.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's so many people at different points in your life that come through. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you this. There's a photographer. He
Okay.
passed away some time ago. He was a
Right.
teacher of mine when I was in art school. His name's Larry Sultan.
Okay.
And if you look up Larry Sultan and you look at his work, you will see absolutely no similarities between him and myself.
Okay.
But sometimes you have somebody who's like a mentor when you're really young,
Yeah.
and they just, whether you see them or not, or you're still in touch with them or whatever, I'll still be in the studio on certain days, and I'll be working on a piece, and I'll back up to look at it, and I'll think, I wonder what Larry would think of this. I wonder what Larry would say about this.
That's nice.
So even though he passed away some time ago, and even
Mm-hmm.
before that, I hadn't really seen him much. Um, he's this sort of figure that always like re-enters my thinking, you know,
Yeah.
like his ideology, his spirit, the way he looked at art, the way he talked about art, you know.
Right.
And I think a lot of that formed my ideas about art and how it functions.
Okay. Well, that's thanks for that story. Is there also like an artist, like a street artist or an artist from back in the days that inspired you in a completely different way, or is it more very near
Yeah, no, I
yourself?
mean, I would say, you know, when I was studying photography,
Mm-hmm.
and both these artists again have like stuck with me over all it. So there was Mike and Doug Starne,
Okay.
which was this. They were twin brothers, but they worked as a team, and they started out primarily as photographers. Now they do a lot of installation work, like they did this enormous bamboo sculpture on the roof of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York.
Okay.
Um, and they don't really use photography anymore. They built these structures, these installations.
Right.
But when I was young, their photographic sort of sensibility uh, was a big influence on me. And they made all these things that were very sort of almost ephemeral. They were
Okay.
put together with Scotch tape and things like that. And then the other person I would say is a French photographer named Christian Boltanski. He does a lot of installation work, and
Yeah.
he's just he's just an amazing installation artist, amazing photographer. And both those guys, I would say, um, had a huge impact on me. But as far as influences go, it also depends on when you run into people.
Right.
You know, when you're younger, I think you're much more impressionable, and the art that influences you when you're somewhere between 15 and 18
Okay.
leaves a much deeper impression than art that you run into later in life.
Okay. So we're done basically.
Huh?
You and I were done. We're old now.
Yeah, no, we have nothing new to learn. We're just going through the motions for whatever our remainder on the planet is. No, but you know what I mean. When you're
Yeah, of
young,
course. Yeah.
the experiences that you have when you're young in that early stage of life tend to make these much more impactful impressions on you um,
Totally.
than when you're the older you get. I think you take things a little bit more in context and STRAAT.
Yeah. So, um, okay, there's another question. Can you, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Still want to
Yep.
know a couple of things, but can you be truly satisfied about your own art piece before exposed to others, or does perfection not exist? I think, yeah.
No,
So,
I mean I don't even try to judge it so much when I first make it.
hmm
Um, I, I mean, I basically set up a task for myself. You know, the piece behind you. This is what I'm going to do while I'm here. You know, I'm going to work on it and use the ideas and tools that come to mind while I'm working on it. But
yeah,
I'm not going to decide whether it's good until later. I never know if anything's good until later.
okay. So you
So
just
if
you at some point
I get
create
it
a
to a
distance and you just let it be.
Yeah, I mean, I have to because so often in the past, you know, especially when I was younger, I would do a piece and I would think I had made some big step forward, you
hmm
know, and think, oh, this is a great piece. And, you know, it would go away. And 2 years later, I'd look at a photo of it and be like, that was crap. I don't know what the fuck I was so excited about. And then similarly, sometimes I'll do work and I'll think, oh, this is strange. This is awkward. This doesn't really work.
hmm
But it's finished. And I'll put it out there, put it wherever it goes, and I'll look back at it a year and a half, 2 years later, and think, oh, you know, that was actually better than I thought. So I'm never really able to judge it very well until I haven't really looked at it for a period of time.
Yeah, yeah. I do remember the works that you made in Paris when I was also there with the black kind of wings stripping
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
back
yeah.
paint, right? I think with
Yep,
one of
yep.
these works, you also made a print,
I did
right? That's
of
one of the
that.
works that sticked.
For you or for
No,
me?
yeah, but for you, that was like giving you satisfaction, I think, like 1 or 2 years later.
Yeah, I like that piece, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the
No,
funny thing when you go back, sometimes you're just flipping through your computer, you forget what you made, you don't think about it so much. And you find a folder of photos and you look at them and you think,
I was.
that's not very good.
Yeah.
Or, oh, that's not bad. But
Yeah.
I can't make an accurate assessment until a lot of time has passed.
Yeah. So, dark berry juice is there again.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm also interested in it. What's your most famous work?
Oh, I don't. It's probably that piece that got ripped off a million times. The if you want to achieve greatness, stop asking for permission.
Okay, yeah, the fake Banksy piece. But
The
actually,
fake Banksy piece.
people actually thought it was a Banksy piece, right?
Yeah, people thought it was to the point where
Yeah.
it had gotten reproduced and copied in so many times, like as a Banksy piece, that I wrote an email to pest control.
Ah,
Um,
really? Okay.
yeah, and I said, hey, I'm this guy. I did this piece. Um, just write me something back that says you don't know a fucking thing about it. And they wrote
Yeah,
back and they were like, yeah, we can confirm this has absolutely nothing to do with Banksy. We don't know anything about it. So I have my little pest control thing,
that's cool.
letter, my little email from pest control that says it absolutely has nothing to do with Banksy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a funny story to kind of finish. And what's your favorite artwork for yourself?
That changes, you know.
Hmm.
Of my favorite artwork of my work or
Yeah.
in the world.
No, of your work. I think that's the
I
question.
don't I don't have a favorite.
No?
You know.
For
Yeah,
me,
it feels
I
wrong.
really
It
like
feels
this
wrong
one
for
in the
me to
back.
have a favorite. I
Yeah,
like
it
that one.
does. Yeah. And this one is sticking,
You
eh?
know,
It's staying.
I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, me
I
too.
don't look back. I don't look back on that and think, I fucked that up.
No, you didn't. Yeah, no,
So
you didn't.
so yeah,
You
that's a
didn't
good, and that
overdo
was
it.
a good experience. That was a shitty day. It was raining and it was
It
cold.
was. Yeah, it was
It
very
was
cold.
like the winter weather in Amsterdam in the spring,
Ah, it's
but it was
right
a good
now. It's
day.
right now it's 18 degrees out here and it's raining. So and it's July.
Yeah,
So you
that's
can always
yeah.
experience that. You know, you can have 25, 30 degrees in March, or it can rain in summer. So yeah, we would love to
I
have
mean,
you here, Eddie.
yeah. I mean, my only regret about that trip is that me and Night Owl didn't stay longer.
Yeah.
We were only there for a few days, and we didn't get to experience Amsterdam very
No,
thoroughly.
no, and you didn't check out Rotterdam, where I'm from. So you should
I
definitely come
didn't.
back at some point. Um,
There's a whole bunch of architecture I want to see in Rotterdam.
right. Yeah. No, we
Yeah.
would love to show you.
Um,
Um, okay. Dark Berry Juice is continuing with questions, but we need to wrap it up. We
yeah.
discussed
What's the
we would.
question? Let me answer it real quick.
So it's so is your artwork like
It'll
your
be the
children?
last one.
Yeah, sure.
What's
So is your artwork like your children? You can't pick a favorite.
exactly? It feels unfair.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a it's a good answer to a good question. To finish a good interview, it was nice to catch up. Of course, we
Always
will.
a pleasure, my friend.
It's of course we will catch up later for more personal talk, of course. But it was nice to share a little bit with our audience.
Yeah. For
And
anybody who watched, thank you.
yeah, well, quite some people watched during the hour, and everybody can rewatch it later at some point whenever you want to. I mean, we can talk for hours more, I think. But
We could.
thank, thanks for now. Um, good luck with making these decisions regarding the next steps in your career.
Yeah. It'll be
And
exciting.
Yeah, of course. And I really hope to catch up soon in person to drink a beer or some at Rude. What's it called? Montague,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? We had a lot of beers there. So
yeah. Yes, indeed.
say hi to Naito if you speak to him.
Yeah, I'm probably
Stay
gonna call him tomorrow.
perfect. Stay safe. Stay safe there in Oakland.
You too.
And
The museum looks great. I never got to see the museum up and running, so that's a big thing. When I come back,
yeah,
I have to go and see the full curated area.
yeah. Look,
Yeah, see, when I was there, a lot of pieces were still just being stored, and a lot of those pieces hadn't been created.
no, yeah, no. Now it's finished,
It was
and
still a construction zone.
it was. Now the roof is repaired. It's all clean. Your piece is here in full glory. So come check it out soon.
Of course.
Thanks from Amsterdam. Thanks everybody for watching.
Awesome, man. Good seeing your face, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Bye.